So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the ADHD Refrain Project podcast. Bit of a mouthful stuff, but still, I mean, not stuff. You have to excuse me. My brain is not braining today, and there's no connection between the brain and the mouth. Anyway, welcome to our listeners, to our followers. If you are listening to this, which I think is episode 8, then it's amazing to have you on this journey with me. And today I'm joined by Adam. So would you like to just quickly introduce yourself, Adam, please?
So
Sorry.
yeah, my name's Adam Clowes. Work in the tech industry as a senior integration manager, so project management based role on a technical side. So work very much in a very technical industry. So works really well with my brain because it keeps firing on all cylinders. So I was diagnosed with ADHD a couple of years ago, and I talk a lot about that on LinkedIn as along with like my family life with my 2 kids, dogs, my wife. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Um, I mean, that's how we connected through LinkedIn, and I have to say you're hilarious because I know for LinkedIn there are people that are like, this is a professional social media platform. So when I find someone else that doesn't kind of fit the typical professional mold, or is just kind of authentically honest about their daily lived experiences, then that's pretty much the kind of people that I kind of aspire to, and also the type of person that I like to talk to. It's not that I'm not professional and you're not professional, but it's just I like the reality of when people just post on LinkedIn because it's actually they're not like they're just being honest.
Yeah,
Do you find that?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've been on LinkedIn for about 12, maybe 13 years, I think, but I didn't really start posting until probably about 3.5 years ago, or properly started posting. And that's when I was going through my light bulb sort of moment of like, "Oh, I think I've got ADHD. Like this,
Yeah.
is all that sort of those pieces started to come together. And that's when I started talking about a little bit about what I was discovering about myself and going through that journey of getting diagnosed. And then obviously I've built quite a number of connections who are very similar to me, very work in different spaces, people across the planet, basically in America, Australia. You kind of connecting with all these people, but that unfiltered sort of reality and moving away from these robotic type posts that people put on, and it's all the same dribble. And like you, I connect better with people who are just authentically themselves, and because it's nothing worse than just coming across people who reiterate the same things over and over again, and and it's just there's no personality to it. So that's when I decided just to kind of start posting a bit more about my daily life, the challenges I go through. And, I try to keep it lighthearted because I'm not a serious person. I am where it comes to work, but
Yeah.
LinkedIn it's my domain, it's my profile. I've got full autonomy over how I sort of post, and I like to try keep things a little lighthearted and prompt some conversations as well. So, which I have done over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good because yeah, unfiltered. I like that. That's unfiltered. That's me. So, what was your diagnostic journey then? How did you come to? Can you tell me a little bit about how and when or where or how, or I don't know why I've said how twice, but please.
No, no, it's fine. Yeah. So, it was through LinkedIn. LinkedIn was how I sort of discovered it, and it came from a post to I can't remember the lady's name now, but she it was a post that was on LinkedIn, and it was just something I'd randomly gone past one day, and she was talking about she was diagnosed with ADHD, and I think she was in the late teens or something like that, and then she was talking about the three things that were the key identifiers for her for being diagnosed, and they were everything that I experienced. So it's things like, I think from memory, I remember two of them. I can't remember the third one, but one of them was, it's like when you were when I think back to school and someone like a teacher would give me instructions on a particular task, I would hear it as like a completely different language. So it's like I couldn't, that they could say something very simply like, please can you write your name on that piece of paper? And I would hear it, it was as if it was in Dutch or something like that. And
Mhm.
and it was like that whole auditory processing struggles. So that was one of the points. And I was like, oh, okay. And then there was another thing where, and it was just more around where you have a time skip, as if you've missed an entire conversation of something. They could sit there and you're like, and next thing you know, it's like, right, get on with it then. You're like, shit, what? what am I doing? Language, sorry, it will slip out.
No, 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 you can say naughty swear words.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah.
It
I've got a potty mouth like a sailor,
oh, yeah,
but,
yeah.
if one slips in, then yeah, don't worry about.
It's only passion.
Yes, exactly.
And so, yeah, I would sit there and I'd be like, "Oh, I don't have a bloody clue what they've just said now. I don't know what to do." So I'm like to the next person going, "What's this? Yeah, tell me what were you not listening?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, but it's like I just kind of switched off, and next thing you know, we're expected to do something, and I don't know what I'm doing." So they were the two, and there was the third one, and I can't remember what it was now, because it's a few years ago now. I just remember my sort of mind kind of going. It's like everything's been sort of flooded. Like I was like, oh my god, like all my nervous system was kind of. I was, really upset me because I've gone 34 years at this point. It was 34 at that point, and I was like, "Shit," I was like, this makes so much sense now. And then if all these little things from memories from the past and started to sort of flood back in and kind of go, it's all the signs were there, sort of thing. So obviously I've got a really supportive wife. So I was obviously the first thing I did is go. I had that conversation with her, and she was like, right, okay, go to the doctors then, because that's the next step. And a really good GP, in fairness, he was really good. He pointed me down the right to choose route. So this is before it got inundated with requests. So I got in okay at an okay point, and he pointed me down right to choose. He did help me to do the application. So I had a really supportive doctor, which was really good. He agreed with my sort of assessment because I'd obviously done a bit of research. Because
Yeah,
when we get on to something, we kind of go deep diving into things, don't we? And then it took me about 8 months, 8 or 9 months to get my appointment for my diagnosis. And then I think my sort of diagnosis appointment with the psychiatrist lasted about 40 minutes, and he told me I was a textbook, like textbook. I'm more inattentive, obviously because, but I was probably a bit more hyperactive, like tendencies when I was younger, which I definitely was. But obviously as I got older, it's more inattentive and
yeah.
internal sort of hyperactivity now. And then I got diagnosed, and that was like October 23. Yeah, October 2023, I got diagnosed. So it's been about 2.5 years now. Uh, and yeah, and then from there, I've just kind of obviously continued to try and learn a bit more about myself, continued to kind of try find just ways of sort of managing my condition, or ways of kind of keeping myself centered, and really just try to make the best of it, really, like use the good parts about it rather than focusing on all the negatives that I've had. And people talk about when they get diagnosed, it's all like that grief that they experience when about a life that's been lost type thing. To if they'd have known earlier, it could have been different. And I went through all of that sort of experience when I first got diagnosed. And but I always kind of think different. I try to think differently about it now, because if I got diagnosed early, there's a very real possibility that me and my wife might not have been together. I might not have
Yeah.
children. Might not have got the life that I've got. We've built for ourselves. So I have to try and go. Actually, no. This is how it was meant to go. So this is my path, basically. And it's been it's been quite a journey. But I've met so many good people through LinkedIn, and I've built relationships with people who I work with and who are really supportive as well. So I've got a really good network of people as a result of being open and honest about what I've kind of gone through. So that's been like the story of the last few years, really. So it's been quite a bit of a journey, as you can imagine. So
So I was just reading your profile before we met, and I noticed that you have ND, which is neurodiversity, I'm guessing, a neurodivergence and mental health advocate.
yeah,
So for men, because I obviously I'm a late diagnosed ADHD woman, and I was diagnosed age 43 in 2019, so a few years before you, having no idea that I had it. But I think for men, because I've always focused on women when I've been talking about things, because there's a lot of of information on social media about the forgotten lost generation of ADHD women, blah blah blah. But I think I realised a few months ago that actually I'm missing half of the story when it comes to men as well, and particularly with men and men's mental health and well-being.
it's I think for me it's like I try to kind of highlight the challenges, I suppose, that I've gone through personally, and that's where I've kind of been open and transparent and saying that. I mean, I've struggled with anxiety in the past, and
Yeah.
that was following a bit of a rough relationship I was in. We kind of separated, and it wasn't the best sort of environment. Neither of us were sort of in the right um, frame space to be together, kind of thing. It was one of those sort of situations where I'd left one relationship, jumped into another, and then everything sort of kind of was hitting me. And I didn't know what
Yeah.
this was. I was going through periods of anxiety, and having anxiety attacks on nights out, all these sort of things. Um, and then obviously then I met my wife, and obviously the rest is sort of history, well, as you say. So, but in terms of my mental health, it's very much like kind of just being open and honest and sort of going, I'm struggling. One day I'll be perfectly fine, and other days I'll be kind of quiet and I'll sit myself away. But it's those days where I kind of go, I'm just having a bit of a rough day. I'm experiencing this. This is why I'm experiencing it, and then people can help support it. And so it's just really being honest about what we're doing, because I don't want to fall into a category of a typical male from my previous generations where they just keep it to themselves and not say anything, and be men, man up, and all that sort of stuff. Which is just toxic in my sort of opinion. And I like to think that my sort of generation have changed that narrative. We started to shift it, and then obviously the younger generations are a little bit more open anyway now, I think, anyway. But so really for me, it's just remaining that sort of uh, open and honest sort of dialogue, and sort of really kind of being there as a pillar of support. So I'm a mental health first aider in my job, so I am there as a support pillar for people who might need that, whether male or female. So I am there basically as a support and help direct to like resources that might be. So if we've got like, internal sort of resources around, we have like counselling services that we as a company we have access to so many free sessions. If there's someone's going through a particular tough time, or if there's more extreme cases like Samaritans or anything like that, we can get in touch with those. So we have sort of, I guess it's like a privilege. For me anyway, if someone comes to me, they trust me to speak to me. So that's the kind of environment I want to try and create, really, with the sort of advocacy I do. And I'm also doing neurodiversity awareness as well in the company that I work for, with a colleague of mine who's also neurodivergent. So, and we're doing something together. So yeah, he's just been actively involved in keeping the conversation going. That's the sort of the main gist of where I kind of sit and what I want to do. And it's no bells and whistles or anything like that, but it's just having a conversation and being honest, really, and not sugarcoating the reality of our condition or the impact you have on mental health, or how it affects your family life or your relationship with kids. And because it does ultimately have an effect on all of these things, it's just how I handle it and how I sort of process the emotions that come with it, I guess. That was a very long-winded answer, so I don't know if that came across.
No, perfect. Honestly, perfect. Like, I don't really have anything to say to come back at that. Yeah, I couldn't have said that any better, even if I'd have said it personally. So, has your undiagnosed and then your diagnosed self, either or, caused issues in relationships? It sounds like your wife is fully supportive, so that's beautiful. But have you had any issues with family or friends? Or you don't have to answer the question either way.
I'm just trying to think, like, because I past relationships, yes, before I was diagnosed. Obviously, my wife's been with me before and after diagnosis, so you've seen more of that journey. But before I was with my wife, yes, absolutely, would have had issues in relationships, and it's all the impulsive sort of side of things that. As I was younger, I'm in my 20s, going out, sort of having that not lad culture, going out and drinking, and you do stupid things, putting traffic cones on your head, all that sort of stuff, really impulsive things. And as I've got older and become more aware of how my sort of mind works and how how these things are, a lot of it was driven by alcohol and stuff like that. So I'm
Yeah.
not saying I got an issue with alcohol or anything like that. Obviously, the symptoms, the sort of tendencies I had were exasperated by going out on nights out drinking or anything like that, being around certain influences. I cut a few people out of my life in my 20s that were a bit toxic, previous relationship and so on. And yeah, and then obviously, since I've been with my wife for 13 years this year. It's
Wow. Congratulations.
thanks, yeah. We've been married 5 years this year, together 13. So she's obviously seen me go through coming out of this bad period in my life, and we got together, and then we've obviously bought a house together, we've had children together, got married, and then she's obviously gone through this process with me as well. So things evolved naturally, and I made quite a few steps, decisions when I was in my mid-20s, like I stopped going out so much, stopped drinking, because I knew what the effect it was having on me personally, making my symptoms worse, it was making me anxiety worse, so I decided to stop doing that, and then yeah, and that's where I started to see the upturn in the quality of my life, really. So, or the decisions I was making, and the friendships I was keeping. It's So yeah, I mean, I have two very close friends. They live in like London and Northampton. So now I'm up towards Stoke-on-Trent. So, but we're all like we're very much like with three brothers sort of thing. So it's very close relationship like that. So we're all talk openly about what we're all going through as well. So which is rare, but it's really good. Like, because it keeps us close when we don't speak for months at a time. We'll speak, and then really good. But yeah, I've had to make some decisions and cut people out or not speak to people because it affects my mental health and certain personalities and whatnot. It's just you struggle with. So yeah, ultimately, yeah. So it has affected some relationships I've had, some, but the good relationships, it's only strengthened, if I'm being honest. So it's long and short of it, really. So
So you mentioned a little bit about being more impulsive when you were younger and then more inattentive as you've got a bit older. So can you just explain a little bit about that, please? I know everyone that's listening probably, but I'm just interested to hear your
yeah,
thoughts on what that means, please.
yeah. So it was just like I used to make rash decisions or rash, like, so some of it was obviously related to being on nights out and that sort of culture. Historically, I had a tendency to have a few drinks and thought it was a good idea to go and drive my car and stuff like that. Those sort of silly impulsive decisions. Where there's no real thought of consequences of those sort of actions. And so that's something I did a couple of times when I was in my early 20s, so a good while ago. Didn't help because I got encouraged as well by certain people as well at times, which wasn't so obviously you kind of just want to, your brain kind of goes, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway, sort of thing. So, and then when I come out of that spell and I stopped going out as much, stopped drinking, stopped. Well, I've reduced my drinking significantly. I don't drink anywhere near as much these days now. But once I stopped doing that, I realised actually my thought process was a lot clearer. I'll go, actually, oh, no, I am not doing this. Like,
Yeah.
um, certainly as I've started to, you know, me and my wife got together and stuff, that's when it just changed. A lot of it changed for me because I was like, I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be that person. No, it wasn't just going out drinking and stuff. It was like, I said it's just chaos. Like,
Yeah.
it was just a chaotic period of time really between the ages of like 19 and 23, 24. It was like I was going out every 2 or 3 nights a week and stuff like that. It was just, it was just a blur. A lot of it was a blur basically. So, and I just didn't want that for it anymore. So, and it was just like impulsive, like sort of, oh, going out on a Thursday night. I've got to be in work for 8 o'clock in the morning, but I wouldn't get in till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and have 2 hours sleep and go work. And like I don't even, and now I can't even bear the thought of, I just think I'm like, if I'm not in bed for like 9 o'clock, I'm screwed. Like, so, like, I'm 37 and I feel like I'm like aged about 30 years in like the last 10. But yeah, life of a parent, I think, more than anything. But so yeah, that's it. I think that's a lot of the impulsive side from when I was in my 20s, and then as I've come out of that period and realized actually my inattentive stuff is like it's like the concentration. So I have periods where I seem like I'm in my own world. I feel like
Yeah.
you're thinking about 100 different things, and my wife will laugh, and she'll go, "Are you listening to me?" She does it randomly to test if I'm listening. I'm like, "Sorry, love, what did you say?" She goes, "Nothing. I was seeing what." I'm like, I'm like, oh, you're just she kind of, because she knows that I'm in my own world, so she does it to snap me out and go, "Yeah, come back to us. Are you here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm here now. Thanks, love." So yeah, so it's just very much sort of I get caught up in my own sort of thoughts and my own world, and if it's whether it's work or internal sort of things that I'm thinking about, whether it's oh, we've got house projects on, how are we going to do this, how are we going to do that. So I'm just kind of like I'm in my own world, in my own mind, basically, sort of thinking
Yeah.
things through. So I think that's where that's how it's kind of evolved over the years and stuff. And and I'm glad that chaotic sort of period of my life is well and truly sort of behind me. Uh, but I was because much rather take this inattentive sort of like in my own world sort of lark than being in a place I don't want to be. Um, yeah, that's I think that's the I don't think I've
So
got
y
anything else. So,
so you said about hyperactivity being
yeah,
internal.
yeah.
So, explain that, please.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it just goes into a little bit around being in my own sort of mind a bit, to be honest. A lot of that is it can manifest in different ways. It can be
Mhm.
like task avoidance. So it's like, I need to do this, but actually I've got like these 10 things I need to do. So where I'm going to start first, and then I kind of go, actually, I need to go get a drink. Actually, I need something to eat. I've been in the toilet for about 4 hours. What I need to go there. So it's just all this like it's just literally my brain kind of fires off in different directions, and it gets to a point where I kind of just go, I just can't do this. But so like, like you just, I'm ready to sort of like smash my laptop out the window, and I've had enough sort of thing. But that only happens on occasion. But it does manifest in that sort of way when it's really really bad and I'm struggling, especially if there's lots going on, not necessarily with work, but if I've got outside things sort of impacting my sort of day to day as well. Like, school holidays when the kids are running around and stuff like that. It's obviously that plays a part. And if we've got house projects on, because we're having a new kitchen, we're having a new puppy, and next week, so we're like, so there's a lot of these little things we're trying to piece together the dynamics of how we're going to get everything to settle in and work. And so yeah, it could be that's just I suppose a very snapshot of from my side anyway what it kind of feels like and looks like. But it's just accumulation of all the different things that are going on that I'm trying to think through. But there's no order in which how I'm thinking about it. I'm kind of going here, here, down here, up here, then back again. So there's just no real sort of logical way of thinking about it. So I have to take myself out and then go one by one. So yeah, it's just I mean, it's just a bit of chaos really, and up here. So that's what it feels like most days when it's really bad anyway. So
Yeah, because I often hear people say, like, having inattentive ADHD is like having, like, 100 browser tabs open, and there's several types of music playing somewhere, and they
always
don't
one
really.
beaming at me. So yeah,
Yeah, exactly, and then the lights coming through the window, or that I don't like that noise from outside and stuff, and it's just like sometimes for me it's a real sensitive
yeah,
kind of overwhelm, and I'm like my brain, like my partner says to is the same as your wife, he'll be talking to me and I now just say, "I have absolutely no idea what you've just said,
yeah,
so can you
that's it.
say that again, please?" Yeah, because he knows obviously that it's not I'm not doing that on purpose, I'm thinking of probably something related to ADHD or
Yeah,
psychology and stuff. It's just, yeah, the brain is. But I think it's when you find someone that kind of will kind of unconditionally love you, even though we do these things and they're not on purpose. We
yeah,
can't help it. But I just think it's beautiful when I hear of other people that have got such loving and supportive partners, wife in your case as well. Because I think, when it comes to the emotional dysregulation and then the rejection sensitivity dysphoria for me, which has literally been debilitating
yeah,
up until a few years ago, kind of like that emotional hyper arousal when you don't even know that it's coming, sometimes, can be misconstrued, or I don't even realize I'm angry until my partner will point it out. But he will ask me like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I'm obviously not okay, but I don't realize sometimes that I'm not okay. So it's beautiful when I hear you talking about your supportive wife who kind of, and I think more so when it comes to men and men's mental health, it's important, I think, for have you had any
Yeah.
experiences with RSD? Do you have any?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I think it goes back to like working sort of in previous jobs. I think it's just more. Uh, it's more of like it's something I've done something and I don't realize I've done something wrong or something like that. I can feel it's things like when little things like I think I've talked about. I spoke other people talk about it as well. It's like when managers drop um, invites in your diary saying catch up, and it always kind of makes me go, shit, what have I done? Like, what have I done? And and if it's, especially if it's like the meeting's set for like 2 or 3 days time, and I'm like, what is this? Like, what do you want to catch up with me about? Because this could be one of the many different reasons. Are you firing me, or have I done something wrong? Have I like what have I fucked up on? Basically, can you just tell me? Like, just don't let me hang in, and then I'll go back through the history of whatever I've done over the last however many weeks or months, and I'm kind of thinking, what have I missed? What have I missed? Because I've got a history of certainly in my first jobs and early career, like I made lots of mistakes, as anyone does, and I got ridiculed for it. I got criticized. I got put on performance plans, all those sort of things, and so a lot of that still stems back from my early career. So
Yeah.
although now, I've not really had any. I don't really have any issues as such where I am now. I've got a really supportive company and they really help me and they understand my condition as well. So if they do put a catch up in, it's always got a just want to catch up on these couple of projects and, just to see where you are. And so I get a little bit of context. So that really helps me. And I've got a really supportive HR team, which is really good. But before diagnosis, obviously, they wouldn't have known. I didn't know. So it was a completely different ballgame. So all those emotions were really raw and kind of came out in various forms. I'd be kind of going, "What have I done? What have I done? I don't know what I've done." So yeah. That's my sort of I suppose living experience of any sort of RSD. And most of the time, it was nothing. It was always like, "Oh yeah, we just wanted to catch up because we were talking about a performance plan a couple of weeks ago. You wanted to improve on a couple of bits, and I got a few ideas." And I'm like, "Why didn't you put that in the email then?"
Yeah.
So it's just very little things, and and so that's what, and those little things I don't think people really understand about the neurodivergent mind. It kind of take them off on a little trail of internal destruction because you try and take apart everything you've done to see what you've missed, and it could well be completely something different, and it could be a positive. It's just you just didn't know. So it's
Yeah.
yeah. So it's experience. I mean, I've been working for in an office environment for about 17 years, and so I've gone through quite a few periods of where I felt like that. If I failed on internal promotions, or I've been uh, typecast as someone who just doesn't do much work or just wanders around and stuff. And I couldn't sit in my seat for a while. Basically, I was quite fidgety during a certain period of my working life, and then but then obviously I found a job that I was interested in, and obviously that sort of feeds into my sort of the job I'm in now. Basically, that I've been able to kind of it's an environment I really like. I work in tech, so it's obviously evolving all the time. We're seeing all these new things that are coming out. I get to be involved in these things, so I'm very much focused on all of these things. So I've got a passion for what I do. Um, so obviously that whole viewpoint has shifted. But so yeah, I don't suffer too much with it nowadays. Only like little things now and then. If someone's just kind of shot me down on a certain point or something, like I've said something and like, oh no 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 no, something, and like just keep quiet next time. So, but other than that, but that's not a their problem. That's a me thing. That's just my sort of brain processing. But now compared to in the past, I'm far more equipped to handle those sort of circumstances because I can compartmentalize and go, no, no, this is just a temporary emotion. It's not anything serious. Let's just chalk that up to initial response sort of thing, and then I kind of just put it away, and I'm okay, and again, I kind of just carry on. So yeah, I think that's all I would say around that. I think so.
I think as well for me, I need to kind of sometimes when if the RSD is triggered, I need to step away from everything and just go and take stock of what's going on in the moment. Where is this coming from? Have I? Because my immediate if someone says, "Oh, I need to speak to you, but I can't until later," or they just put a meeting in the calendar or something, I'm like, yeah, I'd go instantly to, what have I done wrong? What have, it's always necessarily been down to me. I'm the one that's in the wrong, when in fact it's as you've just explained as well, it's not necessarily us, it's just because people don't kind of communicate in the way that we need them to alleviate that. But I think once I started understanding about, RSD, and kind of understanding about emotional dysregulation and emotional hyperarousal. And I've also got complex PTSD from childhood trauma and adult trauma. So it's like the two things can kind of be pinging some days. And in them days, I just need to step away from everything and everyone. And I just co regulate with my partner and I get under the blanket. I just sit with him for sometimes hours just to calm myself down, calm the nervous system down, just kind of, that physical co-regulation that I need. Is there any specific tech that can support people with ADHD that makes daily life easier?
I don't particularly use any real tech, if I'm being honest. Outside of having everything in my calendar on my phone, I don't really rely too much on anything else. Much like anyone else these days, obviously, I do kind of tamper with AI just to kind of help me build any things I want to do, like, I use ChatGPT and stuff like that, just to see if there's any way I can um, sort of structure like my day a little bit more. So I've got like a bit set mornings that I need to take me. Uh, I'm in the gym and stuff like that, so it's like I'll make sure I'm eating what I need to eat, getting me protein and vitamins or anything like that. So not really any specific apps or tech or anything like that I'm using. I know there are others who kind of use apps that probably a bit more designed for the neurodivergent mind, but I don't really kind of pay attention to that sort of stuff, if I'm being honest, because I feel like it just overloads like what can be a simple process really for me. So it's just, nothing beats like because we have a calendar downstairs. So, and that's like the house calendar. So that's everybody's diaries on a wall. And I use that really, which my wife has to remind me to fill in, especially when I'm going to the office or anything like that. I always forget to write on when I'm going. So we use that as that sort of our sort of main source of truth, basically, and then everything else goes into my calendar on my phone. Um, so outside of that, there's nothing fancy that I really use, if I'm being honest. So I just because of that, I feel like it just overwhelm me if there's too many different apps or things I'm relying on. I just try to keep my life as simple as possible to take myself away from any possible sort of distractions.
Yeah. And so what about parenting? Have you had any issues with parenting
Um,
because of your ADHD?
Good question. On reflection, yeah, I think it certainly in my when I first became a parent, I struggled with like it's obviously going through all those initial stages when obviously they're very upset, and sometimes it was like they wake up in the night and they scream and cry, they're teething or they've had a bad dream and they just wouldn't settle, and that kind of gets overwhelming because it's the noise and I suppose the emotion that comes from it, because you just want to calm your child down and be there
Yeah.
as a pillar of support. And sometimes they just don't want me; they just want mummy. And the same, if they don't want mummy, they'll want me. And that's how it is at the moment. It's all just want me all the time. It's at bedtime. It's like, Daddy, come on, and they'll come on and they'll jump on and give me a cuddle and we'll read a book and then they'll go sleep. And my oldest will stay awake and be like, right, can we watch some videos on Instagram or something like that? People who are making different characters in pancake form. So pancake characters. So we watched one last night and it was Flintstones. And that's just our sort of little ritual thing we have in the evening. It's like our little 5 minutes together before they go to sleep. And because it is very full on being a parent. And apologies, I don't know if you've got kids yourself, but it's just, but it's obviously, because I've got two young children, they're 7 and 3. So we're at very different points in their development. So we've got the 3-year-old who's like still waking up in the night, which he did last night, gets up for 2 hours and then screams when he doesn't get what he wants. And then my oldest is like going through that. He's in year 2 at school, so he's like going through all those challenges and initial emotions of being at school and building relationships with people. having troubles with other children and stuff like that. Normal day to day things that sort of occur. But so my job, and I try to do my best job, is just to be there as a comforting blanket, really, for them. Just not and just be there if they want me to be in their circle of them, really. So that's all I can really do. And so I think at first, yes, I did struggle because I had children before. I had both of my children before I was diagnosed and before I realized I had ADHD. So we just had our youngest when I had my light bulb moment. And so that helped me piece together a lot of the emotions that I was probably experiencing with our eldest when we had first had him. And that's really helped kind of me to build those relationships. Now I still lose me rag. I think any parent would be lying if they said they didn't. Especially when if it's like a lot of screaming, shouting, the fighting, it's like, right, that's it. I've had enough. Stop it. Because I think everyone goes through those sort of moments. But then it's like what you do afterwards, and it's like creating that safe space afterwards and going, listen, and I always do this, especially if I like to tell them off or shout at them. I'll always sit them down and I'll apologize for shouting at them and explain that the reason why I shouted at them. I won't try to minimize the apology. I'll always say, I'm really sorry for shouting. I didn't mean to scare you. But, and I'll try not to say but it just to explain that I was frustrated. I was getting a little bit upset with how you two were behaving with each other. And so try to explain it in their terms, really, why I was responding the way I was responding. And then, yeah, and hoping that sort of lands with them. And then they just fight again the next day. So it's just a recurring pattern. The eldest understands. He does understand, and he'll always come up to me and goes, "It's okay, Daddy. It's okay. I understand why you've had to shout at us." And it's like, I'm like, "Okay, thanks, mate." So
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
we have a good relationship like that.
my daughter's 27 nearly. She'll be 27 next month, and she's moved out and she's a midwife and she's bought her own flat and stuff. But I think even up until a couple of years ago, like she struggled to, it wasn't accept, but I think kind of just to be able to process the ADHD in me. And it's only since, in the last couple of years, I've started kind of spending time with her. We get on better now. We're not living together. So look forward to them years for starters, Adam. But I think now we're not living together because we're very similar, but also very different. She's sensible. I'm not. She's more autistic than ADHD, but yeah, I can still be quite impulsive and stuff. But I think since I
Yeah.
kind of sat down and started explaining, the symptoms or explaining why I can't give you a yes or no answer because it's physically impossible, because that is just too painful for me, or why I am and can be very oversensitive, like over certain things, particularly my family, my direct family, my mum and my brother. The relationships are toxic and they're completely broken down. But she understands that that's okay. But for her, she still has contact with my mum, which I say to her is absolutely fine. They've got a very different relationship. But if I think back to when my daughter was born, drug addiction was rife for me back then. And it was always stimulants. And obviously didn't get diagnosed with ADHD until I was 43. But I think growing up, just thinking back to when she was a child, like, I think we had more fun because I was very light-hearted with everything and, I wanted to play with the toys or I wanted to, do this or do that. But then I think back to my childhood and I think back to hers, and subconsciously when I had my daughter, I just parented very different. So my daughter has always been full of love, appreciation, support. Like, I'm her biggest fan and her biggest support. I think it's important sometimes just to kind of highlight that for me, the trauma cycle is finished. It's over. Like, the relationship between my daughter and myself is very different now. And I think it's really important to show even young children like emotional maturity. If you lose your rag, which you're going to because you're human, but then you sit down and talk about it, then I mean, what more could you ask from a parent? I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's it. And me and my wife are both the same. Like we try to create like a safe environment because for them to kind of express what they're experiencing. our eldest is, he's going through all the challenges of being in first school and all the different personalities he's dealing with. Now, we suspect he's potentially ADHD as well, potentially, purely because he doesn't stop running. He runs everywhere. Got like a motor like anything. His brain runs at 100 mile an hour some days. And his concentration obviously varies as well. So we have a few little subtle signs like that that we keep an eye on. So we're very in tune with that. We don't want to kind of push down we need to get him diagnosed or anything like that. We like very much, because we know that I that's part of the reason why I went sort of diagnosis, because my parents had said something to me about, oh, he's just like you. He just reminds me of you when you were a child. He just running around everywhere and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. So maybe I need to learn more about this is when I was going through all the light bulb moments. I was understanding actually, oh, I think I've got ADHD. So I went through all this and I learn as much as I can about it and about all the differences that people have, so that I can support my kids if they're going through this as well. Now, the youngest is like an absolute pit bull. I can't at the moment. I can't really tell if he's just like wild or if there's anything else in play. But he's so much more advanced cognitively than compared to what my oldest was like when he was a child. When he was at 3, speech understanding is a lot better. But my oldest took a lot longer to learn how to talk and how to understand. But he's very emotionally he's very in tune with his emotions. So he's very emotional when it comes to like injustices and stuff. So if someone gets bullied at school or something happens and he doesn't like it, or come home and he gets upset and he'll tell us what's happened. You know, and that in itself is really not. I take that as a compliment, because we've given him that space to do that. So he comes home and he can express himself like that, and that helps me, because I'm like thinking, okay, maybe I'm doing a good job at this being a parent thing after all. So, and I think, and that's what we just want to try and maintain as he's growing up. And obviously, the way the world is now, I'm just, there's so many things that we're kind of going throughout technology and phones and all this sort of stuff. We've not got to that point yet with them where because he's only 7, so he's far too young to be having a phone or anything. So it's just, yeah, parenting as a neurodivergent is difficult, but it's not. But it's proving, if you can get the right balance, you can kind of create that really nice environment and have such a beautiful relationship. And like you were talking about earlier, it's just like being able to get out with them and play with them and laugh with them and just enjoy that time together, and hopefully builds the foundations for when they grow up as well, so that they keep that sort of open relationship with you.
Yeah. Yes, just it's beautiful, beautiful. And I know you've put on LinkedIn a few times that you're playing referee daily, hourly, minute by minute, playing referee.
Well, I've still
Yeah.
not adjusted, so yeah, but yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's important as well, like not just because when you're a divergent, but just because we are just human beings, that to just remember that no one is a perfect parent, no one is
yeah,
a perfect anything, and we're all going to make mistakes. It's not because when you're a divergent or have got ADHD, it might just be because we're just human beings and shit
yeah.
happens. Day to day life is hard some days, and it's just really important to kind of highlight that if you had like anything that you could say to someone who was considering getting a diagnosis or is newly diagnosed or has already been diagnosed for a while, is there any kind of words of wisdom you'd like to say?
I think the only thing I would say is just don't stop learning about yourself, because there'll be new things every day that you'll experience or you'll go through, and you've not gone through it before, and you won't make sense of why you're feeling a certain way. So it's always just, as with anything, you just keep learning and keep on trying to learn more about yourself, and pass that knowledge on really as well, especially if you've got kids, neurodivergent family, and friends who are going through the same process. You can share your experiences and share what you've learned about yourself as well. So it's just a constant evolving. It's just constantly evolving, because obviously the diagnostic criteria is very rigid and strict, but the reality is so much more vast and sort of fluid in terms of how these kind of manifest in people. So it's just, like I say, just what works for you might not work for someone else, but you can kind of go say, this is what I do to help with me. And then people can adapt and evolve what those sort of strategies. And so yeah, it's just keeping an open dialogue really. But yeah, otherwise it's just don't stop learning about yourself because there's gonna be there's so much more to come. We
Yeah.
don't know what else is gonna ask for. So
Yeah. And I think for me, like self-acceptance,
yeah,
self-esteem, self-worth have been hard won, not just because of my childhood trauma, but just because, I was bullied at school, bullied as an adult in workplaces and stuff. And I know you've had not necessarily bullying, but similar, experiences within employment previously and stuff. So I think it's, kind of the reason why I wanted to kind of start reframing ADHD. My tagline is from deficit to difference, is because there's more positives for me personally. Like I'm actually proud that I'm a late diagnosed ADHD
yeah,
woman. I'm just, and I think focusing just on my strengths, so it's kindness, humor, love for learning, creativity, like compassion. I've done a bit of a strength-based thing and tried to kind of some coaching and stuff and tried to start reframing and then unmasking. And since I stopped masking and just more of my authentic, funny self, which I don't realise I'm being funny half of the time because it's just a natural kind of way of being.
yeah,
I've other people kind of it makes them feel comfortable to kind of, look at their strengths and almost harness their ADHD as like a daily skill, which is what I do. That critical thinking, that kind of like there's lots of things that go on in my brain, and I know there's a lot of people on social media that are talking about toxic positivity, which I don't know if I have a problem with that or not, but I have a problem with toxic negativity. I have see people on Facebook and stuff that I've had to unfollow because they're saying ADHD is horrific. No, it's not. It can be debilitating, and we do face daily challenges, but for the most part, like, I love it. I think it's great. Like,
yeah.
I enjoy it. I embrace it every single day.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm the same, like, it's a it's a core part of who I am, because it obviously drives a lot of the nuances, shall we say, that are part of my personality. I'm quite a I'm quite a up I try to be an uplifting character, I try to keep things positive. I'm always like a, "Yeah, yeah, up guys, you're right, how are you?" And, and I have good relationships with people who are very similar to me like that because we bounce off each other and the little quirky sides kind of start coming out when you meet the right people. But yeah, like you, I don't focus too much on the negatives because if you do that, you're just going to drag yourself down. It's just going to bring your mood down. It's not going to be helpful. You're just going to get into a spiral of negativity and it's not going to do anything. But I know like my positives are very similar to what you just kind of said there, really, is about try to lead my life, bit light-hearted, bit humor, I like to see people smile and be happy and stuff. Yeah, but at the same time, I'm very thankful that I've got an outlet at home, so where if I'm not in the great place, I can go. This is how I'm feeling, and it allows me to process that without actually running the risk of debilitating my own sort of mental health and making myself really and put myself in a position where I'm just masking all the time. I can go, yeah, I'm feeling like this, but today's another day. It's all good. Off we go. Because I've processed anything that I've gone through, and then tomorrow's a new day, and then I can bring myself be my best version of myself back. Yeah, I think I'm at a point in my life now, certainly a few years in now from diagnosis nearly, that I'm leading a life where I've got a nice balance. Still have off days like anyone else, but ultimately I lead a very sort of calm, very sort of present sort of life, and that's how I kind of want to kind of maintain it really. And I enjoy my job, got a great family life, loving wife, great kids. I can't ask for any more. I've got everything that fulfills me at the moment. So it's just carrying on like that, really. Just keeping that balance and keep learning about myself, and then keep moving forward, really.
that. I do think, because I'm studying psychology at the moment, so I think I've gone on a journey of self-discovery within my studies as well, so I do love that. Like, I feel for myself, even in my personal life, it's just every day is a learning day, so I'm learning more and more things about myself every single day, and kinda just nurturing the really positive stuff, and yeah, so that was a beautiful place to end anyway, Adam. So thank you for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate your time. I know we've been trying to set this up for a while.
Yes, about 6 months nearly, I think.
Yeah,
Taking a
two
while.
chaotic ADHD people, then that's
Yeah.
always going to be the case. So yeah, but yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Once you started saying that you were a tech person, I was like, oh no, I have issues with tech all the time. Uh, but so I apologise. Anyway, to our listeners, thank you for listening today. And hopefully you'll all come back for the next episode.